What happens when a prince on the run, a group of legendary kings and queens, and a talking mouse team up to save a magical kingdom? This epic tale of betrayal, battle, and redemption will leave you on the edge of your seat. Don't miss the shocking twists and heart-stopping moments in this Narnian adventure. On the night of a celestial eclipse in the mystical realm of Narnia, Lady Prunoprasmia, residing in the Telmarine castle, gives birth to a son. General Glozzel hastily conveys the news to her husband, Lord Miraz, who immediately issues a chilling reminder of his orders. Prince Caspian X, the rightful heir to the throne, must be eliminated. Overhearing this sinister plan, Dr. Cornelius rushes to awaken Caspian and hide him in his armory. Moments later, Glozzel and his men storm into an empty bed, too late to find their target. Cornelius quickly equips Caspian with essentials for escape and gives him a mystical ivory horn, instructing him to use it only in a moment of great peril. Caspian flees the palace, skillfully evading guards until he enters the ominous Shuddering Woods, knowing the soldiers fear its depths. However, his escape takes a dangerous turn when his horse is startled by a tree, sending him tumbling to the forest floor. Disoriented, he is discovered by Trumpkin, Nickabrick, and Truffle Hunter, who recognize the danger approaching as the guards close in. Trumpkin steps out to confront the pursuers, instructing Nickabrick to protect Caspian. Fearful of his fate, Caspian attempts to blow the horn, but Nickabrick stops him with a swift blow to the head. Meanwhile, in London, siblings Susan and Lucy Pevensey enter the Strand Underground Station, where their brother Peter is embroiled in yet another fight. Edmund soon joins to defend him, and the skirmish is interrupted by the arrival of guards, necessitating them all to scatter. Reunited later, the siblings share their frustrations about being treated as ordinary children despite having ruled Narnia as monarchs a year ago. As Susan urges them to accept their current reality, Lucy notices something magical. She's been pinched by an unseen force. Susan suggests they hold hands, and as a train passes, the station dissolves around them, revealing a beach by a stunning cavern. Ecstatic, the siblings realize they've returned to Narnia. Exploring nearby ruins, they discover the remnants of Cair Paravel, their former palace, and mourn the loss of their bygone reign. Investigating further, they find the royal treasure chamber intact, but notice Susan's horn is missing. Armed with their old weapons, they venture out, stumbling upon Telmarine soldiers attempting to drown Trumpkin. Susan's arrow interrupts the scene, and Peter and Edmund rescue the dwarf. Initially mistrustful, Trumpkin's skepticism fades after a sparring match with Edmund. He recognizes the siblings as the kings and queens of old, believing the horn summoned them. Elsewhere in the Shuddering Woods, Caspian regains consciousness, overhearing Nickabrick and Truffle Hunter debating his fate. Misunderstanding their intentions, he tries to defend himself, but Truffle Hunter intervenes and asks for his story. Caspian reveals his flight from Miraz's murderous schemes. Truffle Hunter insists he stay, as the horn marks him as a savior of the Narnians. Back at the castle, Miraz confronts Dr. Cornelius with evidence linking Caspian to Narnian myths. Learning of the horn's power to summon ancient rulers, Miraz imprisons Cornelius and sends Glozzel to capture Caspian before the Narnians can rally. As the Pevensies journey upstream with Trumpkin, he recounts Narnia's grim transformation since their departure. The Telmarine's conquest silenced the talking beasts, and the trees, once alive, no longer speak. On shore, Lucy approaches a bear, hoping it's friendly, but it attacks her savagely. Trumpkin eliminated the bear, warning the children of Narnia's newfound dangers. In another part of the woods, Caspian, Nickabrick, and Truffle Hunter evade a Telmarine patrol. Truffle Hunter is wounded, but a fierce, diminutive warrior appears, effortlessly defeating the soldiers. The fighter reveals himself as Riepachip, a valiant mouse who initially distrusts Caspian, but relents upon learning he blew the horn. Centaurs soon join the gathering, heeding the horn's call. As the Pevensies press on, Lucy glimpses Aslan across a canyon, but only Edmund believes her. The others dismiss her claims, and their journey continues. In the shuddering woods, tensions rise among the Narnians debating Caspian's trustworthiness. He calms them by asserting his rightful claim to the throne and vowing to unite Telmarines and Narnians. Glimstorm the Centaur validates Caspian's leadership, pointing to celestial signs heralding this as the moment for unity. With their faith restored, the Narnians accept Caspian as their leader and prepare for the battles ahead. The Pevensey siblings continue their journey toward Veruna, only to discover the area crawling with General Glozl soldiers. The men are cutting down large swathes of trees to construct trebuchets and a massive bridge. Realizing the path ahead is far too dangerous, the group retraces their steps to the spot where Lucy claimed to have seen Aslan. The others tease her about her vision, frustrating Lucy. While walking, she accidentally slips through a loose patch of ground, only to uncover a hidden ledge that offers a way across the river. That night, Susan reflects on why Lucy is the only one who can see Aslan. She confesses her mixed feelings about returning to Narnia, admitting that she had grown accustomed to life in England and resents being thrust back into a world that can never truly be permanent. The following morning, Lucy stumbles upon a trail of magical leaves and flowers, which lead her to Aslan. He tells her that events in Narnia never repeat in the same way and urges her to have faith. Lucy wakes from this dream and sets out to find Aslan again, but is interrupted by Peter, who has been stealthily tracking a mysterious figure in the woods. The figure turns out to be an armed minotaur, and Peter approaches cautiously, only to be surprised by Prince Caspian himself. A fierce sword fight ensues between the two until Lucy intervenes, realizing that the Narnians surrounding Caspian indicate he must be an ally. With the misunderstanding resolved, proper introductions are made, and the Narnians rejoice at the return of their kings and queens of old. Caspian suggests they move to a safer location to plan their next steps and leads them to Aslan's house. There, the group receives a warm welcome from the centaurs and learns that this stronghold was built over the ancient table where Aslan unalived himself for Edmund's sins. Meanwhile, Riepachip and his courageous band of mice sneak to the bridge construction site, stealing weapons and armor. They leave behind a chilling message carved into the wood: "You were right to fear the woods, Caspian X." When Miraz discovers the breach, he orders Glozl to execute the guards who failed their duties. Declaring Caspian a traitor, Miraz announces the need for a new king. Back at Aslan's house, a fawn sentry spots a Telmarine scout near the woods, forcing the Narnians to hold a war council. Lucy suggests waiting for Aslan's guidance, but Peter insists they act quickly, proposing a bold plan to attack the castle while most of the enemy troops are stationed at the bridge. Caspian warns that no one has ever taken the castle by force, but Edmund points out that staying put will only lead to starvation. Despite disagreements, the group sets their plan into motion. That evening, Narnians mobilize. Eagles carry Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Caspian into the castle, while Riepachip's mice infiltrate through the sewers. The main army waits in the forest for the signal to storm the gates. Inside the castle, Caspian discovers that Dr. Cornelius has been imprisoned. Ignoring Peter's warnings to focus on the mission, Caspian rushes off to rescue his mentor. Cornelius reveals a shocking truth: Miraz unalived Caspian's father. Consumed by rage, Caspian confronts Miraz with his sword. Their fight is interrupted by Prunaprismia, who injures Caspian with a crossbow, allowing Miraz to escape and summon reinforcements. Meanwhile, Edmund drops his torch during the chaos, and as he fights to retrieve it, Peter, Susan, and Caspian manage to open the gate just in time to signal the waiting army. A brutal battle erupts between the Narnians and Telmarines. Although the Narnians fight valiantly, the tide turns when Miraz orders the gates to be shut. A brave Minotaur holds the gate open long enough for most of the Narnians to escape, but he is eliminated, leaving many trapped inside. Devastated, Peter and the others retreat to Aslan's house, burdened by their loss. Tensions flare between Peter and Caspian, with both questioning whether the Telmarines even deserve a place in Narnia. Their heated argument nearly leads to a duel, but it is cut short by the arrival of Trumpkin's injured body. As Lucy heals the dwarf, a grieving centaur mother learns her children died in battle, deepening the group's despair. Miraz, now crowned king, consolidates power by securing loyalty from feudal lords and sending their troops to reinforce the bridge. At Aslan's How, Nikabrik secretly introduces Caspian to a werewolf and a hag, who promise to summon an ancient power to defeat Miraz. Using dark magic, they call forth the White Witch, encased in ice, who demands a drop of human blood to be freed. As the werewolf restrains a horrified Caspian, the hag draws blood from his hand. Suddenly, Peter, Edmund, Lucy, and Trumpkin storm in, engaging in a fierce battle to stop the ritual. Trumpkin eliminated Nikabrik just as he threatens Lucy, while Edmund defeats the werewolf in a single strike. Peter confronts the White Witch, who attempts to manipulate him, but Edmund shatters the icy prison with his sword, ending her threat. Moments later, Miraz's troops arrive at Aslan's How. Realizing their dire situation, Peter acknowledges his mistakes and entrusts Lucy and Susan with finding Aslan in the shuddering woods. Before departing, Caspian gives Susan her horn, but she insists he keep it for when he truly needs her again. Caspian and Peter devise a desperate plan to delay Miraz's army. Knowing Telmarine tradition demands a king defend his honor in single combat, they decide to exploit Miraz's pride. Edmund, donning his royal armor, walks boldly into Miraz's camp to deliver Peter's challenge for a duel. Though hesitant, Miraz is coerced into accepting by his scheming lords, who secretly plot his downfall. Deep within the woods, Susan and Lucy navigate cautiously when they encounter a Telmarine patrol. Susan, ever protective, sends Lucy ahead to safety before engaging the soldiers with her bow. She expertly takes down 3 men, but as they close in, the odds begin to turn against her. Just as danger seems imminent, Caspian arrives in time to save her and escorts her back to Aslan's How. Meanwhile, outside the ruins of the How, Peter and Miraz engage in a grueling duel. Both skilled swordsmen, they fight for what feels like an eternity, each refusing to yield. At one point, Peter requests a short break, and Miraz reluctantly grants him 3 minutes. Susan arrives during this pause and informs the group that Lucy has successfully made it through the woods. Miraz uses the moment to berate Sopespian for not intervening in the duel, but Sopespian, for his own reasons, refuses. The fight resumes, with Peter finally gaining the upper hand and disarming Miraz. However, rather than deal the final blow, Peter hands his sword to Caspian, declaring it his right as the rightful king. Caspian chooses mercy, sparing Miraz and vowing to return sovereignty to the Narnians. Before this can happen, Sopespian betrays them, fatally piercing Miraz with an arrow previously used by Susan. He then accuses the Narnians of treachery, riling the Telmarine soldiers into launching a full-scale assault on the How. The Telmarine trebuchets rain destruction upon the Narnians, and their cavalry charges forward. The Narnians quickly adapt, laying traps that collapse the ground beneath the horses' hooves. Susan's archers unleash volleys of arrows, striking the dismounted soldiers. Glezel leads a countercharge with Telmarine forces, but Caspian and Glenstorm launch a surprise harm from the rear, momentarily turning the tide. Sopespian orders the Telmarine infantry to advance, and their artillery manages to breach the house gates with massive boulders. The Narnians face mounting losses, and defeat seems imminent. Meanwhile, Lucy, pursued by Telmarine soldiers, stumbles upon Aslan in the forest. With a thunderous roar, Aslan drives away her pursuers and awakens the dormant trees. Back on the battlefield, Caspian finds himself trapped in a sinkhole as Glezel approaches, sword drawn. Before Glezel can strike, a massive tree root rises, knocking him unconscious. The awakened trees join the fray, wreaking havoc on the Telmarine forces. A trebuchet takes down one tree, but another retaliates by crushing the war machine with its roots. With the tide turning, the Narnians rally for a counterattack, forcing Sopespian and his troops to retreat toward the bridge. The siblings and Caspian pursue them, but arrive to find Sopespian confronting Lucy and Aslan. In desperation, Sopespian commands his soldiers to harm, but Aslan roars once more, summoning the river spirit. The river rises, obliterating the bridge and drowning Sopespian and his men. The remaining Telmarines surrender, and the battle ends in Narnian victory. After the dust settles, Aslan officially crowns Caspian as the King of Narnia. Amid the celebrations, Riepechip's band of mice mourns his apparent death. Lucy uses her magical cordial to revive him, but Riepechip is distraught to find his tail missing. Aslan playfully teases the mouse before restoring his tail, to the joy of all present. Aslan then leads the group to the Telmarine capital, where they are greeted with cheers and fireworks. At the castle, Caspian announces his vision for a united Narnian Telmarine Federation. For those unwilling to embrace this new era, he offers them the chance to return to their ancestral homeland on Earth via a magical portal. Glezel is among the first to accept, leaving with Prunaprismia and their child. The portal's presence signals a bittersweet farewell. Peter explains to Caspian that he and his siblings must return to their own world. This time, however, Peter and Susan will not return to Narnia, as their time there has ended. Before leaving, Peter gifts his sword to Caspian, symbolizing the transfer of leadership. Susan bids Caspian a heartfelt goodbye, acknowledging that a romance between them could never work due to the vast difference in their lifespans. She gives him a kiss before stepping through the portal with her siblings. In an instant, the Pevensies find themselves back on the London Underground platform. As the train arrives, Edmund laments having left his torch in Narnia, bringing a small laugh to the group. They board the train, carrying with them the memories of their incredible journey. Did you see that coming? From the rise of Caspian to the fall of Miraz, this story proves that courage and unity can overcome even the darkest of forces. If you loved this epic journey, smash that like button, subscribe, and let us know in the comments. Would you have blown the horn? Don't forget to ring the bell so you never miss another adventure. Until next time, remember, Narnia is always waiting.